I think Disney knew they had this franchise that had reached like 1 billion people. And with Disney Plus launching, they knew they wanted to kind of reinvent it and bring it to a new audience. Didn't quite know how to do that. I went in and pitched this take, which was we follow a group of kids who are putting on a production of High School Musical as a musical at East High in Salt Lake City, and they bought the pitch and we sort of started from there. With 10 episodes, the opportunity you have is to introduce new characters, go deeper into their backstories, and then when it comes to this sort of soundtrack that for so many people we're all in this together, and When There Was Me and You and Bop to the Top, it's like the soundtrack of a generation. And so, you know, one of the ways we differentiate ourselves is that every episode has a song from the movie sung in a new way, generally in a rehearsal room context for the show they're putting on, and then a brand new song. Whether it's, you know, a character like Nini posting a song on Instagram, or a duet between two characters that might surprisingly take place in an alley outside a bowling alley. I think that the original franchise was so successful, and there were these 3 movies, and the intuitive thing would be to do a 4th movie, but now Zach and Vanessa, and they've grown out of high school. They're no longer high schoolers. And so we wanted to sort of reinvent the format. And I think that for anyone who has a Glee-sized hole in their heart, this is a series that you can feel like I can tune in, I can watch it with my kids, I can laugh at the jokes, they'll laugh at other stuff, and it sort of fills that niche of a musical show, which there just aren't a lot of on right now. I hope the audience is wide. I look at the Pixar model in a way which sort of checks off different quadrants, where there's my mom crying at something that's different than my niece who's laughing at that. So I see the audience as being anyone who wants a half-hour escape once a week as it drops on Disney Plus, and anyone who loves and knows that as corny as musicals can be, they can also take you to a place that nothing else can because of the power of music. I think from a nostalgia factor, I absolutely expect that a certain number of people who love the originals will tune in just to see what the heck we did with it. At a certain point though, nostalgia runs low. Like you can run out of gas quickly. And so inventing an entirely new set of characters, having brand new songs, and diverging away from the original High School Musical is, I think, the way that we stay on the air for more than one season and create a brand new group of theater kids putting on a show. So above all else, I wanted real teenagers to play teenagers. I think a lot of shows that you can see on various platforms star 30-year-old teenagers. I watch a bunch of them, they're really fun. But I didn't want to tell that sort of dark slice of life tale that sort of dwells in its own misery. I wanted to tell a story of like real teenagers with real acne who can play real instruments and sing real songs. And so we hunted far and wide for a group of kids who could really sing live and really bring that authenticity to the screen. First person cast was Joshua Bassett. He was 17 at the time. He played a Bruno Mars song in his audition. It was the first tape I saw. And I sort of felt like I've got a show because he has so much heart and authenticity on the screen. We went back to the scene of the crime. East High in Salt Lake City, where people still show up by like the busload every day and take selfies outside the school. It's like Paris has the Eiffel Tower and Salt Lake has East High. It's shocking how popular it is and how much it made an impression on the world. And we shot it there. We also have some sound stages in Salt Lake, but we were on location in Utah through the winter into the summer, and it was a dream. As a writer and a creator, there's nothing quite like, frankly, the power of the Disney brand. To have the opportunity to reach the ABC household, the Freeform household, the Disney Channel household, and now the Disney Plus household is remarkable. This may be the only time in my entire career I get to launch a platform, and it's us and The Mandalorian and The Hero Project and the really exciting shows. It's an honor, it's a little daunting, and I think one of the great things about shooting in a place like Salt Lake City, which is not on the coasts, is that while it's a town full of very talented people and a great crew, it's also not a Hollywood town. And so we got to kind of go into the trenches, make this thing, forget about the outside world, and now we get to sort of show it off on Disney Plus, which is really exciting and only 25% terrifying. I think what's remarkable about streaming is that I have a half-hour comedy show, and the truth is it can go from 22 minutes to 35. Most of my episodes are like 28 to 31 minutes, but what you are allowed to do in streaming is tell the best story you can tell without worrying about like, oh gosh, we have to cut to commercial. That's one of the great things, as well as very specific things like Instagram is name checked in the show, and because we don't have specific sponsors, we can actually show that interface. As a storyteller, it means I'm telling more authentic stories because I'm not coming up with like a fake Getty image version of Instagram. It's been a dream, and it's been a huge platform for me to launch my TV career, and I feel incredibly lucky. The short answer is, I think the only reason shows have long lives is because of characters whose journeys you ultimately want to go on. So beyond the initial hook, which is this kind of meta thing, and it's a mockumentary, and it's self-referential, ultimately that goes away, and I think people will fall for Ricky and Nene and EJ and Gina and Big Red and Ashlyn and these characters whose names you've never heard, and you're like, who is he talking about? And I truly believe in a couple of years they will be household names, if not sooner. At least the actors will be. Yes, I have a ton of ideas up my sleeve for season 2, and I also have seasons 3, 4, and 5 plans. Music is everything. I grew up as a musical theater kid. I was chosen last for dodgeball in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and everything that got me picked on in middle school gets me paid now. Right? So I think that what music does is it allows you to put headphones in and transport, and suddenly you are Beyonce in that music video. And maybe if Beyonce can run the world, then I can at least like walk down this hallway in middle school and run this hallway. And I think that music allows people to try on a persona that they're not ready to be yet. It's the same thing theater does. It allows you to play a character who knows how to use her voice because the lines are already written, and that is the magic of theater. And so for me, we have 9 original songs in the first season. One of them is written by our 16-year-old star, Olivia Rodrigo. One of them is a duet she wrote with Joshua Bassett, who's 18. And I only had to look as far as the person 2 feet to my right, who was in her own life posting songs she wrote on Instagram, to realize that talent is wherever you look for it. And the most important thing I think an adult can do with a young person is to not teach them they have any limits, because if you don't teach them they have limits, then they act unlimited. And so when I said to Olivia, you should try writing a song for the show, she turned something around in 3 days. It's called All I Want. It's going to be covered all over YouTube. I'm calling it now. And people are going to want to be her. And what's so aspirational and what's so new Disney Plus princess about Olivia Rodrigo is that she's posting as much about veganism on Instagram as she is about like getting her makeup done in the trailer. She is an everyday girl who is everything, and also she's just a kid. And that's what the spirit of the show is. So I think show running is ultimately not about having every answer. It's about hiring a group that you trust and then allowing them to thrive. So the job is everything from approving a costume to approving a hairstyle to casting the show to collaborating and prepping episodes with directors to sitting with the editor to say if you cut 3 frames off that, the joke will land harder, to envisioning the entire season. And ultimately, while I ultimately get to take a sort of final bow, the truth is there's 150 people from hair and makeup who set the tone with the cast every single day, and if they don't like going into that trailer, I don't have a good day on set. That person is just as important to me as this writer's room I have, full of incredibly talented storytellers who can tell stories more diversely than I can as a white guy who's born with an inherent privilege that I have to own and also lift up voices around me that aren't always heard. And it's a job where you ultimately have to trust your own gut but remain incredibly flexible to network notes from Disney Plus, studio notes from Disney Channel, and notes from my young actors who have opinions on every line I write. But ultimately it's the dream job, and it's a job where you never get to sleep. And why would you want to? Because you get to put your name on a giant platform. My background is probably non-traditional. I didn't go to college. I almost failed out of high school. All I wanted to do was move to New York City to dance on Broadway. I was a dancing polar bear at Radio City. I was a Christina Aguilera backup dancer at the Super Bowl, produced by Disney on ABC in the year 2000. And then I danced in a bunch of Broadway shows, including The Little Mermaid. And ultimately what I realized was that as a dancer, you are rewarded for being voiceless. I could take a note and I could stand in line and I could like give 100% every performance, but I felt like I had a story to tell. And so in my 30s, I began writing novels for young people. Then I co-wrote the movie Ferdinand starring John Cena and Kate McKinnon. And then I co-wrote a Broadway adaptation of Tuck Everlasting. And by the time High School Musical came around, though I had never been in a TV room, I had been in like every other kind of room you could possibly be in. And I've been everybody from the person who gets you water when you walk through the door to the person who's training kids how to dance on Broadway, as I did with Billy Elliot. And every job is something you take with you. And the glory about being a writer is that every crappy setback you've ever had in the past becomes a plot point later in the future.